The Las Vegas Raiders made one of the boldest coaching hires of the offseason by bringing in Pete Carroll. And while plenty of people had their doubts, citing his age and wondering if his best days were behind him, it's worth taking a deeper look at whether that skepticism is really fair. Recently, Rich Eisen shared a fascinating story on his show. He and his wife attended the final class of the semester that Carroll teaches at USC. The class focuses on leadership and life philosophy, and during that last session, students spoke about how Carroll's lessons had genuinely changed their lives. Eisen described how emotional the atmosphere was. Both he and his wife were moved to tears, along with Carroll himself. It's a powerful reminder that Carroll isn't just physically sharp for his age, he's mentally dialed in too. And it raises an interesting question. Are the Raiders actually getting Pete Carroll at his peak, rather than on the decline? While many assumed he was past his prime when he led Seattle to back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, stories like this hint that his leadership, energy, and impact might be stronger than ever. For Raiders fans, that's something worth watching closely as the 2025 season approaches. That question about Pete Carroll's coaching prime really matters when you look at what he did in Seattle. Over the past few seasons, Carroll took a Seahawks team led by Geno Smith, built around an average to slightly above average roster, and turned them into a playoff contender in one of the NFL's toughest divisions. With teams like the Cardinals, Rams, and 49ers battling it out, Carroll's ability to keep Seattle competitive was impressive. So, is it really so far-fetched to think he can do the same with the Raiders? Yes, this roster has some holes. A veteran cornerback could help, and there's definitely room to strengthen the linebacker corps. But the defensive front looks strong, with Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, Adam Butler, and rookies J.J. Peggs and Tonka Hemingway bolstering the line. The safety group is solid too, with Jeremy Chin and Isaiah Polamau holding it down. On offense, the improvements are undeniable. DJ Glaze, who played every snap at right tackle as a rookie, is back with more experience. Colton Miller remains a rock at left tackle, and the interior line, anchored by Jackson Powers-Johnson and Dylan Parham, looks reliable. The new competition at guard between Caleb Rogers and Charles Turner, both draft picks, adds valuable depth. And then there are the offensive weapons. Last season's group, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and Zamir White, was decent. But now you've got Geno Smith at quarterback, a backfield featuring Ashton Jeanty and Raheem Mostert, and pass catchers like Myers, who posted 1,000 yards with 0 drops. Brock Bowers, Jack Beck, and Michael Mayer. This is a completely different Raiders offense, loaded with potential. Carroll himself admitted that his time away from coaching after leaving Seattle was invaluable. He used that break to reconnect with the game at the grassroots level, watching high school football, engaging with younger players, and learning how today's athletes think and play. That's critical, because one of the biggest concerns about Carroll was whether he could still relate to a new generation of players. After hearing Rich Eisen's story about Carroll's leadership and teaching style, that concern feels overblown. Carroll's culture-building skills are already paying off. He kept key coaches like Patrick Graham and Rob Leonard on staff, moves that reassured team leaders like Max Crosby. He also brought in Chip Kelly, whose deep college experience is an asset when evaluating draft talent. Guys like Ashton Jeanty and Jack Beck, Kelly knows them well. I genuinely believe there's a strong chance Carroll can take this 7 to 8 win roster and push them to 9 or 10 wins. I'm not saying to bet the house on it, but the current over-under is set at 6.5 wins, and that feels ridiculously low, especially with a last-place schedule. This upcoming season could be something special. Now let's dive into my thoughts on the potential Jalen Ramsey trade. Now let's get into the latest buzz, Jalen Ramsey. There's been some chatter, nothing confirmed yet, that Ramsey might have interest in joining the Raiders. And really, who wouldn't want to play under Pete Carroll at this point in his career? The idea of Ramsey in silver and black is exciting, but it's worth breaking down both the positives and potential concerns. Ramsey is still one of the league's top defensive backs. His talent is unquestionable, but the key question is whether he fits into the culture that Carroll and Patrick Graham are building. Ramsey has a reputation, not as the biggest diva out there, but he's definitely a player who speaks his mind and isn't shy about asking out of a situation if things don't feel right. That's where strong leadership matters. In the past, bringing in a player like Ramsey might have raised red flags. But with Carroll's track record and Graham's experience managing personalities like Jack Jones, It feels different this time around. Jack Jones, while nowhere near Ramsey's level of talent, came with his own challenges. The staff handled that situation decisively, showing they're committed to keeping the locker room focused and drama-free. The bottom line, if the Raiders believe Ramsey is ready to buy in and embrace the team's culture, he could be a game-changing addition. But make no mistake, Carroll isn't going to hand anyone a starting job just because of their resume. Even a player of Ramsey's caliber would have to earn his spot every day in practice. Right now, the cornerback room includes Jacorian Bennett, Eric Stokes, and Darnay Holmes. Solid players, but adding Ramsey would raise the ceiling in a big way. The question is whether the fit is right, both on and off the field. Let's wrap this up by talking about what a trade for Jalen Ramsey might actually look like. The Raiders' quarterback situation is crowded right now, and while I'm not listing every name, it's safe to say not all of them will stick around by the time the season kicks off. As for Ramsey, I'd be open to trading for him, but only at the right price. Including someone like Michael Mayer in the deal? That's where I'd draw the line. Mayer has serious potential, and I'm excited to see what he can do with consistent quarterback play and Chip Kelly calling the shots. Trading a young, talented tight end like Mayer wouldn't feel like the right move. In terms of draft capital, a day 2 pick might get it done, but we just spent a 3rd rounder on Geno Smith. For Ramsey, I'd be looking more at a 4th or 5th round pick to make it worthwhile. If Miami was willing to eat some of his cap hit, that's obviously a plus. But even if they weren't, and we had to absorb his full salary, the Raiders are in a financial position to handle that. It seems like John Spytek has been keeping flexibility in mind throughout free agency, possibly to prepare for exactly this kind of opportunity. Now, I'm not blind to the concerns. Ramsey is under contract for 3 more years at around $72 million total, with a cap hit of about $25 million next year. At some point, the team would have to make financial adjustments or move off him, but in the short term, it's manageable. Of course, there's also the draft pick angle. Spytek clearly values his picks and is already setting up for next year's draft, especially with the compensatory picks we'll get for guys like Nate Hobbs and Robert Spillane. That draft strategy could actually give the Raiders flexibility to trade one of this year's mid-rounders without losing long-term assets. And while Ramsey's attitude has been questioned at times, Pete Carroll is uniquely suited to handle strong personalities. Ramsey isn't a major locker room distraction, he's just a guy who's made it clear when he wants out of a situation. With Carroll's leadership, that shouldn't be a problem. At the end of the day, this all comes down to fit and price. Spytek isn't the type to overpay for a declining player, and any deal would have to make sense both financially and culturally. But if the pieces fall into place, bringing in Ramsey could seriously boost the secondary and the Raiders' chances this season.